So in yesterday's and the day before yesterday's class, we started discussing about the first object-oriented programming feature, that is, what is a class? As a definition point of view, a class is a virtual entity or model or object. Class is a virtual entity or model or blueprint. Yeah. Then class syntax we discussed, and when it comes to a class programmatically, what is the meaning of a class is virtual entity we discussed. For example, if we have a class with class name called public class Java, inside this Java class, if we have public static void main, the main method syntax, and here string square brackets space args and its body, and inside this main method, if you have one data type int and with some variable and value, and here in the same file, in the same file only, if we have one more class, say class some student class, inside this student class, we exclusively have only student data. For example, the name of the student, say string name equals James Gosling, so I'll take Gosling. The next int age of the student may be some 20. So this is some data. When JVM execute this entire program, will there be any memory allocation for this X value in the memory? Yes. Inside the RAM, because JVM executes from open curly brace of main method and starts with first line. So because of this line execution by JVM, in RAM, the value 100 will be loaded into the memory according to the story of 4 bytes variable name and all we are aware of. Then after that, any other lines of code? No. And then JVM reaches to closed curly brace of main method, the execution will be stopped. This is the starting point of every Java program execution, and this is the end point of every Java program execution if it is a normal flow. Yeah. Then does JVM is execute this student class? No, because not executing any memory allocation for this. So this data will not be loaded into the memory. That's why student class is just stored in our hard disk when we save this entire file, but it has no physical memory allocation in the RAM. That's why a class is called as a virtual entity. Yeah. Then if we just make it as a virtual entity, programmatically we cannot use it. Then that is where we discussed the next point called as what is object. Yeah. So since I can use the object creation here itself, we also discussed about the object concept. What is object? Class is virtual entity. Object is a real entity or a physical entity. That's all. In a simplest definition format, it's a real entity or physical entity. Then how it is physical technically or programmatically? So by creating the object for a class with the help of object syntax, we can make JVM to execute this class. So for JVM to execute, that relation of this class has to be there inside the main method only. Otherwise, JVM will not execute this. Correct? That's why. So here, by using class name, then followed by object reference name, say S1 equals new, again a student class name, then parenthesis semicolon. With the help of this object creation for a class inside a method, main method, we make JVM to execute this line. So because of that, new keyword, we discussed one object will be created. So this is object of student class. And since this is object of student class, from right hand side only, JVM comes to the student class and execute all the lines of code. So because now JVM is executing, these variables will have a memory consumption inside the RAM. So that's how they are becoming a physical entity after creating the object, not before the object. And once they are loaded, then we discussed about simple variables can be printed by using a variable name, but complex variables has to be printed by using the reference name dot sub variable name s1 dot name, and reference variable dot sub variable name called age in this example. That's how we can access the other class members. To access other class members, we have to create the object inside a method only. That's the conclusion with whatever we have discussed in the previous classes. In a glimpse, I have covered. Still, if you have any questions, please, I'm happy to repeat. Or do you want me to execute any program for this quickly? Any execution? Yeah, Teja and Parvati. Anything to be executed and shown? No, so it's since is any wrong in the assignment which I sent? No, I have replied with thumbs up. That means no errors. Okay, so here when it comes to the naming standards, so since it is not yet discussed as of now, so you are writing your own way. I'm not saying that, I'm not suggesting anything, but if you observe me, so there are rules are there. So we call them as naming standards. We have a separate session for that. 1.5 hour session will be there for that. So that time we'll discuss more clearly. So for time being, so when we write some class, it's a programmer choice. Class names is a programmer choice. Correct or not? Next, project name is a programmer choice. Giving a project name is also programmer choice only. We are giving our own names. Correct. The next variable names is also variable name is also programmer choice only. Then package name is also programmer choice only. So whenever programmer is giving something, then we have to follow certain naming standards or naming rules. So what is the rule for this project names or class names is, if it is a single word, if the project name is a single word, for example, like sample, test, yeah, or like that project, then they are single words, then first letter has to be capital. First letter has to be capital letter. Then the next question, what if it is a combination of more than one word? If it is more than one word, like my project or my class or Aadhaar class or my Aadhaar, something like my Aadhaar, 2 words, my class, 2 words like that. So if it is more than one word, then again the rule same. Every new word has to start with capital letter. Every new word has to start with capital letter. That's the naming rules. Even Java developers have followed. So being a followers of Java, we should also use it. It's a professional way of programming. Starts with capital letter or uppercase letter. So for the first scenario, for example, if the class name or project name, so okay, I'm just mixing up both. If the class name is test, then T capital. If the class name is sample, S capital. If the class name is Java, J capital. If the class name is mobile, M capital. Laptop, L capital. And if the class names in the second scenario, the examples are, so my class, M capital, no space, then C capital, or my Aadhaar, or my brother class. So like this. So first word, first letter, second words, first letter, like this, they should be capital. So these are the naming rules for projects and classes. Like I said, we will discuss again what that naming are called as, we'll discuss. When it comes to variable name, the variable name single word must be lowercase letters, completely lowercase letters. Completely lowercase letters. If it is more than one word, then first word, lowercase letters. Second word, first character, uppercase letter. That's a rule for variables. If you want me to give one example, so single word examples for variable names, say for example, so we are using name all lowercase, age, all lowercase, height, all lowercase letters only. But if it is come to more than one word examples, say for example, my age, then my lowercase letters, age A capital. My pan, my first word, complete lowercase letters, second word, first letter has to be capital. So like this is the naming standards for variables. So for package name, nothing is capital letter, everything in lowercase letters only. Com dot, for example, say company name, say Grads IT, then dot, current concept name, say object. It's not a keyword. So this is how we are going to give a package names. So this is completely in lowercase letters. Any words you use, it is completely in lowercase. So these are the rules for namings in Java entities. Like project is programmer choice, class, variable, package. As we move on, methods will come and all those things. So again, I'll cover at this point of time. These are the naming rules we have to follow. Clear? Yeah. So then, so after the class and object, yeah, it's very much like I said in the class, yesterday's class, during our course time only, we are going to create the object 1 lakh time. I mean, those many times we are going to create it every time. So it has to be understood clearly. And then the next concept which we are moving, so that is also, it is very equally important. At least daily 10 times we are going to write. If you are just practicing for 1 hour, daily 10 times we are going to write this. Okay. So what is that concept and all? I'm just introducing. I'm not saying what is the concept as of now. So for making you realize why we should learn one more concept. So let me take one scenario, one example. The example is, assume there is a project. So generally when it comes to a company, when a project comes, the company allocate this project to only one developer or multiple developers to complete? Multiple. So obviously say developer 1, developer 2, developer 3 and so on. Some developers are there. This is enough for us to understand the example. So in such scenario, so there every developer will get a same task or different task? Different task. So for first developer, say task 1, T1. For second developer, task 2. For third developer, task 3, like this. So everyone got their own tasks. So they'll be start creating their own packages, classes as per the guidance and all. So they are doing their work. Assume T1 has some task, and where this T1 has completed, of course, whoever the developers get the same task, they all will take certain amount of time. Let us fix that. This is 1 hour. The task of developer 1 will take 1 hour. Whoever do that. Okay. If it is not expert or not, somebody less or more, and on average, everybody will take 1 hour to complete that. And when developer 2 is doing his or her own task, so he completed, developer 2 also doing some task. Okay. After doing some part, then there is a situation that this remaining part of developer 2 task, remaining part, after that there is something else to do it. This remaining part of developer 2 task is exactly same as developer 1 task only. Yeah. Assume overall time taken for developer 2 to complete the task is some 2 hours or some 3 hours. If developer 2 do everything on own. But here is a situation where developer 2 task, part of developer 2 task is exactly same as a developer 1 task. Then here you suggest me the developer 2 has to write the same code once again is a better approach, or developer 2 can use the result of developer 1 task is the better approach. Which is better approach? Using developer 1 task as a part of developer 2 task is a better approach. Why? Because yeah, exactly. So when it comes to the answer, what you said is absolutely right. That's how it has happened in a real-time scenario. Why it should be allowed like this is, from a company point of view, it is nothing but there is a resource, time is saved. Resource means that employee time can be used to do some other project at the same time. So resource, time is saved. Yeah. And because if developer 2 is also writing the same code, for another work, they might hire one more employee, they might require. So therefore, time and money also important when it comes to company point of view. Then programmatically, already this is loaded into some part of memory. Then again, this also will take the memory and all. If you are rewriting the code and all those things, that is nothing but so memory saving or data saving. So all these things are nothing but the best practices when it comes to the usage of one task by another. So we can use the result of one task into another task instead of rewriting the task. Yeah. So that is how it is. It will happen in real time scenario. Then which feature of Java supports such type of thing? Yeah. So it is in a simplest terms, there is a concept called as methods in Java. Method. A method will support such type of things. So here this task one can be done by using some method approach. If you are doing some method approach, then this method result can be used by T2. So that whatever this entire code is doing will be accessed by this T2 also, will be used by this T2 also. Such approach is possible with a concept called as methods in Java. Yeah. So now let us discuss about methods. So before I go for what is the definition and syntax and all those things, so methods are also called as functions. The other names I'm giving, interior can use any of these terms, so you should be aware of. Method is also called as a function, is also called as behavior, also called as procedure. Yeah. So these are the different names for methods. Interior can use any other terms, and one last term, subroutines. So any of these terms, all the meaning is methods or functions in Java. So for our classroom discussion, I might use method, I might use function as my terminology. So no confusions, both are same only. Then what is a method? Method is it is a block of code. It's a block of code. What's the purpose? Which is used to perform some specific tasks or some logical tasks, some specific or logical tasks. That's the purpose of methods. That's what the meaning of methods in a Java programming language. Even if you are aware of any other programming languages, every programming language method purpose is this only. Yeah. Then what is this specific task? What is this logical task? At this point of time, so after knowing the syntax, we'll go for some real-time examples. So at this point of time, for example, say I want to add two numbers. In the simplest example I'm taking, add two numbers is my logical part of it. So for this, we are going to use the methods. So that if next developer, if any other person or other developer wants to write the logic of adding two numbers, they no need to write it once again. They can reuse this method here. That's it. They can give their own numbers. For example, I am writing a logic of adding x plus y. So this x plus y can be 10 plus 20 by one developer. This x plus y can be 100 plus 200 by one more user, whoever is using this. So they will get their own results accordingly. But the method is code is written by only once. That's what the simplest meaning of a specific task. Find the area of a triangle. Find sum of all the numbers 1 to 100. So like that, there are some simple requirements to project requirements and all those things in a real-time scenario. So that is where we'll be using the methods to perform the logical tasks. So again, methods is a new concept for us. Like for every new concept starting from data types, class, object, the first part to know is the syntax. And any new terms, what is the meaning, what is allowed there. Yeah. So for that, let us discuss the methods syntax. Yeah. Please don't write. It is very much important to know these things very, very clearly because entire OOPS is based on this. So to start with, the syntax of a method is access modifier. then space return type, then space method name. Again, here I am using angular brackets. We already discussed the meaning of angular brackets is programmer choice. Then open parenthesis. Yeah, so here data type, then space variable 1. Then if you want to use multiple variables, comma separation, comma data type variable 2, comma, like this depends on the requirement. We can use any number, syntactically possible. Then close parenthesis, open curly brace to start method body. Then inside this method body, we'll be using this method body to perform any logical task, then followed by closed curly brace of the method body. So this is the syntax. Where to write, how to write, and all those things we will discuss one after the other. So in this syntax, anything is new for us. Access modifier, we already discussed in the class syntax. This is used to, access modifiers used to control the access. And what is allowed in place of this access modifier? Public, or we can use protected, and we can use default, and we can use private also. This already we discussed, so I'm writing roughly. Then return type. Return type, in place of return type, what is allowed is, in place of return type, so it can be any of the 8 primitive data types. 8 primitive data types like byte, short, int, long, float, double, character, boolean. So any one of these 8 primitives is allowed to use. Along with this, we can also use one non-primitive. Whatever we know, that one only I'm trying to cover. So whatever remaining things are possible, as we move on to the course, you'll understand. And at this point of time, along with these 9 possibilities, there is one more possibility, that is void. Yeah. What is this void? Void is a predefined keyword. It is a predefined keyword. Yeah. Is it data type? Void is not a data type in Java. It's not a data type. Okay. So all these 9 are data types that we already discussed, and we have seen the usage of them with the syntax. But void is not a data type. Point to remember. Next, then when we should use data type and when we should go for void? For example, if method result is some value, that value can be a number, plain number, that value can be a decimal number, that value can be a character, that value can be true or false, that value can be of what's that, boolean, character also. Yeah, so that if the value can be name also. So out of that, if the value return type is some data type of value, then we should go for any of these 9 according to the return value. If return type is none or no value, if return type is no value, then we should go for a void type. If return type is any value, then we should go for any of these primitive types. That's clear. Next, at one point of time, how many values we can return? That's next point. So for that, the point is only one value can be returned at one time. Can we return name and number? Not possible. We can return only name, or we can return only number, but mixing of more than one thing return value is not possible. That's why only one value will be returned at one time by using a method. So this is about return type. So as we move on to examples, you'll understand. For example, if you are using a method, if you are defining a method to perform a logic of finding area of square, for example, area of a square is what type of result? Yeah, for example, if side is 5, then area is how much? Side into side, 25. 25 is what type of data? Integer kind of data. Then in place of method return type, what we have to use? Int we have to use. Yeah. For example, I am performing some logic of the method where it is returning some result like some character. If the method is returning some alphabet like character, then we have to use return type as a char. If method is returning some yes or no kind of results, then we have to go for Boolean. So that is how we have to go for return type of a method. Depends on the requirements only it is. Okay. So I want to make this slide a little more clear. So let me erase this. Then the third part in the method syntax is the method name. So what is allowed in place of this method name? Method name is a programmer choice. Programmer can give any meaningful method name. Yeah. I want to find sum of two numbers. Then sum is a meaningful method name. I want to find area of a triangle. Then area is a meaningful method name. Circumference is a method name. Yeah. So like this, depends on programmer's requirement. We are going for a meaningful method name. It's a programmer choice. Then parenthesis in place of this data type. What is allowed? In place of these data types, what is allowed? Like again, 8 primitives. Anything can be allowed. And then plus string is also allowed. One non-primitive, that is string. We can use any one of them in place of these data types. Can we use the same data types? For example, int, comma, int once again. Is it possible? Yes. I am not writing data type 1 and data type 2. So it doesn't mean that it must be different. Doesn't mean that it must be different. It can be same also, depends on the requirement. But along with the data type, what's the next part we are using? Variable name. So here variable name, say for example, int x. Here also can we use int x once again? No, variable has to be different. That's what the variable 1 and variable 2 means. Understood? Data types can be same, depends on the requirement, or can be different also, but variables must be different. There is a difference here. Like this, how many we can use? We can use any number syntactically. It supports, but there is a Java industry standard. Syntactically, as I said, we can use any number, but as per the industry standard, it is not a professional way of programming if you are taking more than 4. That's why maximum 4 only is recommended. Allowed is any number. Recommended is maximum 4 only. Yeah. Why? The program readability. For example, if you are typing more parameters there, then the bottom of the screen, there is a scope will come. So we have to move left and right. So which is a discomfort for the programmers. We have an alternate solution for that also. So which we'll discuss as we move on to the appropriate concepts. As of now, here only maximum 4 is allowed. Clear? Then inside this method body, we'll be writing some logical tasks. So this is about method syntax and the terms which we are using here. Any questions? No. So like in the previous classes also, when we are discussing about class, object and all those things. So here, this entire thing is called as method header. Like class also we can call it as a class header. So I'm using a proper color combination for you to understand. So this is a method header. Heading of the method in a simplest term. The next part of this syntax is, so when it comes to method name and this data types and all together, we call this part as method signature. So when it comes to oops, you will hear this term very frequently. Method signature means what? Method name and method these data types and variables. And the last, when it comes to these data types and variables, so for this also we call them these data types and these variable names are called as parameters, method parameters, or we can call them as method inputs, or we can call them as method arguments. You can call them as method arguments. Yeah. So these are the various terms that we have in this method syntax. Yeah. Next, if I go to the Eclipse and open any of our previous discussion, like on day 1, I said we are going to discuss everything about it. As of now, just remember is what is my word there. Then did we discuss about this? Public, class, test is a class syntax. Now in the method syntax, first what is the thing? Access modifier public. Second, what is the thing? Return type void. Third, what is the thing? Method name called main. Fourth, what? Method inputs. Method inputs are method parameters or method arguments. So here is a short form of arguments called as ARGS. And what is this? Data type. And what is square brackets? That is a one thing left over. And what is static? It is also left over. Yeah. So only static is a word is left over. This square brackets meaning is left over from this entire syntax, which I said in day one class we'll understand everything. So as of now, we understood almost some 80% of it. It's a method, that's all. Clear it? Yeah. So with this method syntax, now let us go for the discussion of the types of methods that we have in general, some programming languages. Out of that, Java supports how many types of methods? So the types of methods is our next concept. So when it comes to types of methods, in a diagrammatic format, I'm just explaining here. So when it comes to a method, so I'm using some yum1 as my method name. This method will not take inputs, no input. What's the meaning of no input? In method syntax, I'm sorry. That's a prohibited area. Correct, right? Just a second. Yeah. So in method syntax, so here I'm using something like access modifier, return type, method name, then parameters, data type, variable 1, data type, variable 2, and so on. And then close parenthesis, then the body, like this. So here when we don't write anything, no data type, no variable, then that's what the meaning of a no inputs here. Yeah. Then no output also. The method is not returning any value. That means return value will be void type. So in the previous thing, one more important point to remember, in place of this data type, can we use void? This data type, can we use void also? Yes or no? No, because void is not a data type. By chance, if you are using void as a data type, then it's a blunder mistake in Java. It's not supported there. Okay. So there is a possibility of understanding. Here also void is allowed. No, in place of data types, we never used void discussion as of now. In data types concept also, it's not a data type. It's only used for return type. When there is no value, you have to use void. So here also, I'm trying the same thing. When there is no return value, that's what the meaning of no output from the method or no return value from the method. So this is one type of method. A method which takes no inputs, a method which will not give any output or no return value. Such type of methods are supported in Java. We can have such type of methods. The next second type of method, I'll take the method name as yum2. A method will take some inputs. This is with input, but no return value or no output. Is this is possible? Yes, it is also possible. So here, this is second type of method which Java supports. Then I am taking the third type of method called as yum3. Method will not take any input, no inputs, but method returns the value or there is some output. It is also possible or supported in Java. Then, yeah, as of now, it looks like I'm telling only something, but without proving them. So as we move to examples, you'll understand more clearly. There is a fourth type of method. Yes, there is a method which takes input. And when it comes to input, not only 1, 2, like we said, we can have any number of inputs. Like maximum 4 is recommended, but we can have anything. And here, no output. Yeah, so no inputs, but with output. Yeah, then with inputs, but without output. So here, yeah, so then here, with input, then with output also. With output also then. The second and fourth are same in the previous scenario. A method which takes input and also which gives output. This is also one more type of method which Java supports. Then there is some fifth type and sixth type. So I'm just testing your understanding. So with my diagramic presentation. So here no input, but here there is output from the method. And here there are inputs and there is output from the methods also. Is this M5 and M6 type are supported? No, because 3 and M4 and M6 were same. Okay, there is a minute difference is there if you notice. Sorry? Exactly. So here how many outputs are there? Multiple outputs. Here also multiple outputs. So according to our discussion, how many values can be returned at one time? Only one value will be returned. It means how many outputs are possible? Only one output. But can we get multiple outputs from a method? No, this is not supported in Java. Multiple outputs can't be achieved from multiple values, can't be returned from the method. This statement has to be understood clearly. So multiple values can't be returned from method. That's why such type of methods Java doesn't support. Only no input, but no output, no input with output, with input with no output, with input with output are possible. The output is only one output is possible, or only one return value is possible, but multiple return values are not possible from a Java method. So these are the types of methods that we have in Java. Clear? Yeah. So then based on this, let us go for some samples to understand the syntax, how to write a method syntax and where methods will be there. So all those things we'll be discussing